Maria had always been an ordinary-looking woman, but with a subtle charm that attracted attention. Married to John, a hard-working and dedicated man, she led a quiet life in a serene suburb. The couple had decided to renovate their house, and that's how they met the construction workers, Jake and Mike. Both were tall men with dark skin and captivating smiles that lit up the room. The renovation began on a sunny spring day. Maria was at home, eager to see the changes that would transform her home. When Jake and Mike arrived, she couldn't help but notice the energy they brought with them. They were skilled professionals, but they also exuded a confidence that made her feel attracted. In the first few days of the renovation, Maria tried to keep herself busy. However, every time she passed by the room where the workers were working, their eyes would meet. Jake had a playful demeanor. He often made jokes that made her laugh more than she should have. Mike, on the other hand, was more reserved, but his eyes expressed an intensity that Maria found intriguing. The attraction began to grow slowly. Maria felt guilty for thinking about two men while her husband John was out working hard to support the family. But the chemistry between them was undeniable. She often caught herself admiring the defined muscles of the workers as they lifted heavy tools. Despite her growing desire, Maria struggled against her feelings. She loved John and knew that cheating on him would be a colossal mistake. The nights were difficult. While John slept beside her, she found herself imagining the touches of Jake and Mike. Guilt consumed her, but at the same time, there was an undeniable excitement in her mind. One afternoon, while the workers were working outside the house, Maria decided to offer them some water. As she passed through the kitchen door, her heart raced when their eyes met again. Jake made a comment about how kind she was, which made her heart race even more. Maria felt flattered and also terrified by the idea of giving in to temptation. But when Jake approached her and lightly touched her arm, something inside her broke. Desire took over her like an overwhelming wave. That same night, Maria couldn't sleep. The touch of Jake still burned on her skin. When John came home for dinner, she tried to act normally, but every word he spoke seemed distant. While he talked about his day at work, Maria dreamed of Jake's strong arms wrapping around her. In the following days, tension increased between her and the workers. They began to flirt more openly with her during coffee breaks, and their conversations became increasingly intimate. Finally, on a hot Friday afternoon, Maria gave in to temptation. She invited Jake into the house under the pretext of showing him how the new bathroom would look after renovation. Her heart raced as he entered the living room. Inside the empty and silent house, Maria felt a mix of fear and excitement as she realized she was about to cross a line from which there would be no return. Jake approached her slowly, his eyes sparkled with desire. "You're so beautiful," he whispered before pulling her close. The kiss was intense and unexpected. Maria felt as if she were floating in the air. The moment was brief but overwhelming. Soon after that first hot kiss, they heard John's car arriving in the garage. With sudden panic, Maria pushed Jake away and ran to the front door to find John smiling and carrying shopping bags. After that first forbidden encounter, Maria knew she couldn't go back. The adrenaline of betrayal became addictive. Each meeting with Jake was more intense than the last. They began to meet regularly when John was out of the house. Mike also started joining in on their escapades. He was more discreet than Jake, but his presence added a new layer to the dangerous game Maria was playing. The betrayals became frequent. Furtive encounters in the bathroom during renovations or on afternoons when John was at work. Maria felt more alive than ever. Desire was palpable and uncontrollable when she was with them. However, there were moments when guilt surfaced like a shadow over her, especially when she thought about John's innocent devotion. As time passed, lies began to accumulate like a storm ready to explode. John started noticing changes in Maria's behavior. She seemed more distant and often distracted during conversations. A fateful day came when John decided to come home early from work due to an unforeseen issue at the office. He entered the house only to hear laughter coming from the bathroom, laughter that wasn't his. His heart sank as he realized something was very wrong. He approached the bathroom door and listened to familiar voices, the voices of the construction workers he had treated as friends throughout the renovation. John could not contain his anger and pain as he abruptly opened the bathroom door. The scene before him was devastating. Maria was wrapped in Jake's arms while Mike watched with a satisfied smile on his face. The expression on John's face was one of absolute shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Maria, how could you?" he shouted, his voice echoing through the empty house. Maria froze for a moment before realizing how grave the situation was. She knew she had betrayed not only her husband but also her own moral character. The confrontation was explosive. Cutting words were exchanged among all three lovers and John as he tried to understand how all this could happen right under his nose. Maria tried to justify her actions by saying that John didn't give her enough attention or affection, but her words sounded empty against the visible pain in his eyes. John left the house in tears as Maria realized how serious her mistake had been, not just for betraying her innocent husband but also for destroying everything they had built together over the years. The following days were dark for everyone involved in the betrayal. John decided to temporarily distance himself to reflect on their relationship while Maria remained alone dealing with her poor choices. Jake and Mike left after that fateful day. They knew they couldn't stay there any longer without causing more pain to that already shattered family. Maria learned in the hardest way about the consequences of her actions. Her search for excitement ended up leading to the destruction of true love she had for John. And thus ended a story marked by betrayal in the shadows of renovation, a bitter lesson about lost loyalty and questionable character. In the following months, Maria faced a deep void in her life without John by her side. She tried to move forward with her daily routine, but every corner of the house reminded her of happy memories shared with him before betrayal was discovered. The newly renovated walls now seemed like silent witnesses to her personal disgrace. John sought support from friends and family during this painful period. He needed to understand how he had failed to notice warning signs before Maria's betrayal became a devastating reality in their lives. Deep conversations with friends brought him some comfort. Although deeply hurt, he knew he needed to find strength within himself to move on. Meanwhile, Maria struggled against feelings of regret and loneliness. She tried justifying her actions by mentally repeating reasons why she had betrayed John, his lack of attention, difficult moments in their relationship, but those justifications were insufficient against the weight of guilt she carried within herself. One night, while looking out through the window of the renovated living room where so many laughs had echoed before betrayal was discovered, Maria decided to write a letter to John. It was her last attempt to express her feelings and ask for forgiveness for causing him pain. In the letter, she confessed her weaknesses and acknowledged how much she had hurt someone who had always been good to her. She wrote about how she missed him every day and wished she could turn back time to correct her mistakes. With tears in her eyes, Maria sealed the letter and decided to deliver it personally at John's temporary residence with a close friend nearby. Upon arriving there, her heart raced at seeing the man she still loved sitting on the couch looking out through a window lost in thought. John looked surprised when he saw her appear at his door. There was a mix of emotions in his gaze, surprise, pain, and perhaps even a trace of hope behind deep sadness reflected in his tired face. "John," Maria began hesitantly as she slowly approached him, "I just wanted." He raised his hand interrupting her. "I don't know if I want to hear this right now." His voice trembled with emotion held back for so long. "Please," she pleaded, "just listen to me." John hesitated for a moment before slowly nodding his head. He needed to know what she had to say, even knowing how painful it could be to relive those difficult moments again. Maria handed him the letter, trembling slightly as he looked intently into her eyes, searching for answers among words written by hand filled with such emotional desperation. After several silent minutes reading each carefully chosen word filled with sincere regrets about past actions, something inside him began softening despite still throbbing pain in his wounded heart. "I don't know if I can forgive you," John finally said, breaking through heavy silence between them, "but I appreciate you coming here today." The words came out as relief for both him and Maria. Although they knew nothing would return back to normal immediately, perhaps there still existed hope for both finding some kind of peace after all this emotional chaos experienced together over recent months since that devastating betrayal came into light. But this hope soon faded and days passed without significant changes between them. Each meeting became marked by awkward silences where frustrated attempts at conversation arose only to be suffocated by unspoken emotional weight hanging heavily around them both like an invisible shroud obscuring any possibility of genuine connection. John started avoiding frequent meetings with Maria. He needed time alone processing everything without being constantly reminded of open wounds caused by betrayal. Wounds that seemed either healing very slowly or perhaps not healing at all. Meanwhile, Maria remained trapped within torturous thoughts, trying hard understanding how she'd reached such dark point in life. Surrounded by memories once filled with joy shared alongside beloved man now transformed into distant echoes filled solely with unbearable emotional pain. She often walked through renovated house reminiscing plans made together before personal tragedy struck. Plans now felt so far away, like bright stars shining high above night sky, impossible either reach or relive ever again. Nights proved particularly challenging for both. While John battled deep insomnia-filled nightmares about imagined betrayals or painful memories lived alongside once beloved woman now so far removed from reality, Maria spent hours awake contemplating wrong choices leading up isolation engulfing heart. Both remained trapped within vicious cycles fueled by mutual pain stemming from betrayal, unable fully move forward or discover new paths without constantly looking back, burdened solely shadows left behind past. And so they continued lives apart yet intertwined through invisible bonds formed by shared experiences previously, experiences now transformed into bitter memories laden exclusively consequences, tragic resulting impulsive decisions made without considering future repercussions. Meanwhile, renovations continued being carried out by substitute workers, bringing fresh energies into environment once marked by betrayal. New colors painted walls starkly contrasting old memories embedded within structures once happy, home now transformed into emotional minefield where any step could trigger devastating internal explosions. Life moved forward indifferent towards personal pains faced by both. New days dawned, bringing empty promises lacking real guarantees, healing reconciliation between two lovers lost within mists past. And thus they continued their separate journeys through shadows cast by betrayal, devoid happy endings or traditional closures. Merely vague accounts, events marked deep scars left upon broken hearts. Those two human beings striving find meaning amidst emotional turmoil generated by reckless choices made under fleeting impulses.